Hi, welcome to the Kingston Canadian Film Festival, and you just saw Carmen, and I pretty sure you enjoyed it as much as I did. This would be the second time I've seen Carmen, and it works better even the second time. So I urge you to go see it again. Right now, as you see on screen, is the director of the film, Valerie Buhagiar. Valerie, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Tom. So happy to
Uh,
be here.
I wish we could do this in person. This would have been lovely, but this is now it's forever. Now that we're on tape, so that is one bonus about this, I suppose. I have seen, I think, all of your films, and maybe not all of the short films, but certainly all the feature films. This is the most linear, almost I would almost say venturing into commercial film that I've seen of yours, and how does it feel? I mean, you took a story that was based on fact, I understand, and you made a delightful kind of Capra-esque film.
Thank you so much, Tom. That's great to hear. Um, yeah, and I guess you get to a place where it's like you're comfortable in your bones, and along with that comes to like getting a little more authentic with your work, with the stories you want to tell. I think I spent about I don't know 20 years or so exploring possibilities, various possibilities of telling a story, and I've come down to this where it's got all the elements that I want. Um, and yes, it's inspired by a true story. I guess I wouldn't say it's true story, an event, or it's the tradition that's
Oh,
true.
okay.
Yeah.
What tradition then did we see on screen?
Um, well, in Malta, it used to be that when a man became a priest, which happens a lot, being a very Catholic place, his sister would go with him and be his maid, and that would be her life. And that happened to my aunt, one of my aunts, Aunt Rita, when she was actually 13. She went off to take care of her uncle, my great uncle, Monsignor, and then he died, and she took care of my uncle, her brother, Paul, Father Paul, and that was her life. And a woman wouldn't get an education, a salary, or have a family of her own. So, hearing that about that tradition, which I heard it in 2013 when I went to Malta for a visit, that's what my aunt Rita, that was what her life was about. And she's still alive. She's in her 90s in Malta. So I took that idea and created Carmen,
Mm.
um, which I don't have to tell you what it's about.
How's Aunt Rita doing? Other than being 90, which has its own, uh, incidences and stuff. But yeah, but how's Aunt Rita doing as far as continuing on with her life? Because certainly that's traumatic. Was she suddenly abandoned when Father Paul died, as we saw in the film?
Well, there's family, right? She
Mm,
has family. There's a lot of family. We have a ton of family. So she wasn't completely abandoned.
okay.
But and now she's in her mid 90s, so she's in a home. And I did go to see her February 2020, actually. Um, and she burst into tears.
At seeing you?
Well, seeing me and finding out that I wrote something
Mm,
out
I think, and her
her.
name's Rita, which is also the title of your first film.
I know.
Is
Like,
there a connection?
um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm getting you teary. I'll move on from Aunt Rita because that does sound lovely. I love the idea of Carmen in the confessional and giving out these sage advice. Now, that in itself, you could have just done an entire movie like that with that topic and the what happens to the people when they take her advice and how it changes the town. But you took Carmen out of there and moved her on. What was the inspiration to sort of stretch the story beyond what you would think as the normal boundaries of a narrative.
Yeah. First of all, I want to just go back to the whole confessional booth. Uh, uh, my most Maltese that I know in my mom's generation say they didn't go to a therapist; they went to the priest,
Hmm.
and the priest was in the confessional booth. Uh, Actually, my mom, this is a quick story, saw Highway 61. Or no, she didn't even see Highway 61, a film that I acted in, where, I have sex in a graveyard. And a neighbor told her, "Do you know what your daughter's doing in that film?" And my mom was like, "Oh my God." So she went to the priest and she was ready to disown me yet again. But the priest actually said, "No, no, no. She's an actor. This is her job. You cannot disown her." So this is what happens in the confessional booth. That's what
Wow.
I wanted to do, but it's always men. So there's that. Why I pulled her out is now, mm, Carmen was in love at one point and touched. She's not been touched since she was 16 in our story. She was not ever touched, like physically, emotionally. So I wanted her to get there. And yeah, yeah, that's
So
what.
that makes the incident then, I mean, because you could have villainized the young man she meets,
Yeah, nah,
uh, but yet I don't feel like he was a villain. As a
no.
matter of fact, he didn't act like one. He when he saw her again, with the woman on the back of the bike, um, he didn't go, "Oh my God, I've been found out." It was just
Yeah, it's totally and it's interesting because like he thought that's what he was. And I was like, no, no, no. And Natascha McElhone was also saying, no, 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 you're not that. You're not that at all. You're just having a good time.
so the actor thought that that's where his character was going.
And I said, no, no, you aren't. You are just you are really curious about who she is and uh you feel like kissing. You do what you want, and that's what we did, and that's actually how I'd like to live my life. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's a Canadian in Malta. Yeah. So I did not want him to be a villain. I didn't want anybody to really be a villain.
There were no villains in this movie. I
No.
mean, I mean, s perhaps the system is a bit villainous,
Yeah.
a little bit, um, be that as it may, but, um, there's something else about that film, first of all, the relationships and Carmen's acceptability of herself, but I think I brought this up with you once before, so this is and I'll just have to remind you that I thought of Chauncey Gardner, who, just oh, you remember? Yes, okay. So Chauncey Gardner is the character in, Jerzy Kosinski's book, and being there,
Mhm.
walking out on his own after his protector or benefactor dies, and becoming seen as a sage. Is there something about not being completely aware, not being sort of tarnished by knowledge and pop culture or any culture that leaves room for sort of deep-rooted wisdom?
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, yes, definitely, definitely. Because okay, now do recall this? This is in the not recall. Like, the films is set in the 80s, so we didn't
Yes,
have any of that stuff, and she didn't have a TV, right? She
right.
didn't have a TV. She didn't even listen to the radio, right? So, yes, well, that's why people meditate, Tom. Right? That's why we meditate. It's get to our truth, and then you find stillness, and then in that stillness you become more aware, and your eyes open up and observe, and your ears are keen, So as she's sitting in the church, which I grew up going to church almost every day, I learned how to be still. I learned how to observe and listen. Um, I didn't like it, but you had to do something. And yeah, so I put all of that into what Carmen would probably be doing while she's sitting in that pew, is observing,
Yeah.
listening, you know.
And there is Jesus looking like stunning as ever.
Yeah, he's almost in every one of my films, right?
Yes, he is. I I don't know. His fees must be outrageous, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
What if the audience had an opportunity to ask a question, I could probably guarantee you that somebody is interested or wants to know um, what it was like returning to Malta, which is where you were born, but you were raised in Toronto, returning to Malta, regaining whatever sort of roots that you managed to put there in your infancy. And what that was like, how the community accepted you and what it was like to go back.
It's bliss, 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 bliss. Now, um, I've gone back several times to see relatives, take my son there. I also was researching another film, and that's when I heard about the tradition. And that was around in 2013 when the idea came to mind. I didn't write it till around 2015. I hooked up with Coral Aiken, who's the producer, Canadian producer,
Yeah.
and he helped nurture the script. And we went to Malta a couple of times, she and I. So that was amazing, to show her the place I love and seeing it through her eyes, and me rediscovering, and my cousins helping me rediscover places there. And then I guess it was around 2018, we went over to meet up with a Maltese producer. So we interviewed several potential producers there and met up with Pierre Alul. And then he said yes, which is great. And he got the crew cast and helped with the crew and also suggested cast um, together, the Maltese crew. And they were wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. And then his wife, Annika Alul, came on board as a producer, and the team. It was a celebration of Malta as well.
It's a
You know,
beautiful film. It's a
yeah.
beautiful story, a beautiful film. The only thing that I thought that might have taken me out of the film a bit is that the woman playing Carmen, I would never have thought anyone would have thought she was anyone's mother, that she was that like, or that she wouldn't have known herself to be beautiful because she
Right.
was stunning.
Yeah, that was an issue right off the bat when in prep, like it was like, okay, here's Natascha McElhone, and of course I was like, okay, what has she done? And she's like too beautiful. She's too beautiful. How could she be invisible
Yeah.
to this village? And so she and I talked about it and what is beauty, and but my Aunt Rita was beautiful. She was beautiful. Uh, but what happens to beauty when it gets silenced, right? It just choom, choom. And so Natascha and I talked about her body and how it caves in, and the wig, and how you just tighten up. And then when she gets her voice, which is basically, so throughout the film, so this is with my whole visual, with the production designer, wardrobe, makeup, and the actors. This is what's happening. We're in monochrome, grayish tones, that sort of thing. And when she speaks in the confessional booth, she brightens up. The colors change. People's wardrobes change. We see more flowers in the frame.
Mm.
We use an anamorphic lens, which brightens everything up. The movement changes. So this is all mapped out in my little, desk, and then shared with the community of filmmakers, which is the wardrobe, the makeup, hair, all that, and DOP actor. So this is all shared with everybody, and as a team, we take get her from this, you know, humble person to brighten up. Yeah. And so just to go back to what you were saying, I know, I know it was really difficult. It's like, is she too beautiful? I had to, in editing, I started to cut out her smiles just
Mm.
to, because she brightens up the screen. She's incredible.
She is incredible. The movie is wonderful. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm not just saying that because we're talking now. I would say that as soon as your back is turned. Um, Loved it. And I do want to know if because you have done a lot of experimental work and a lot of nonlinear work, would you progress on more in the style of Carmen in your next film? Was it did you feel good about it? And is it something you want to pursue further?
Absolutely. I do. I want both. Now I'm just going through my list of projects. I have about 10 on the wall there, Tom.
One is to finish that guy's head, to do a body for that guy's head right beside you. Draw it. It's like, if you look, just look, there's a head. Yeah, you need to finish that drawing.
Yeah,
That's
that's my friend Steve Singh who did that.
oh, he's a producer.
No, he's
He's a
a musician.
musician.
Yeah, a good friend. And like for instance, I have one called "This Is Not a Ghost Story" that I applied to the Canada Council for. That I want to make. Just I want to shoot it myself on my cell phone. So
Oh,
that's and that's non-linear, and it's about ghosts I've seen in my life.
oh, wow.
Yeah. And then so that is I've got that, but and then I've got, a couple of other quite a few features on this wall that are totally linear. Yeah,
Excellent. Don't
I
show us. Don't show us. Keep the camera off of them. Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for Carmen. It really, I actually got to see it just before the new year. And that's the other time I've seen the film. And it just was such a great way to end a bad year and start a new one. So,
Mhm.
um, thank you so much, Valerie. Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you, Tom.
Bye bye.